Right. Oh, you're ready for this morning.
I want to believe, Krob, you have an actual air horn in your office and you just turn that on.
Hmm.
I wish. No, I've got a two soundboards.
Hmm. Oh, Brian, I don't know if you saw this. Ian Coldwater posted on their Twitter they're looking for a job.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're recording now, so
Yep.
welcome everybody. Krob, I noticed in the agenda we weren't going to have a readout from the vulnerability disclosures group, unless that's something that has just been added. Did you think that might happen, or did you want to defer it to the next meeting?
Was I on this calendar for today? Oh,
Uh,
somebody
the,
snuck that in.
the
Yeah, I
vulnerability.
can do it.
Okay. Well, if you wanted to prep, I think you'd be granted a clearance as well. But there's a table at the top, or on the second page of the TAC meeting notes of.
Yeah, I lost track of it. I thought it was somebody else was the victim this week. No, I'm ready now.
Okay.
The agenda was under embargo, Krob.
I
Just
guess.
released it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Wait, the vulnerability disclosures working group is
Yeah, that was scheduled to report today, but that's fine. We can. It's
oh,
up.
I can help too if you need me to fill in anything.
I can sound like an expert on any topic with 30 seconds of preparation.
Perfect.
It's my specialty.
Small circles, we call them one take crow.
I dare say we have a quorum.
I think we do, and apologies, I'm playing a bit of meeting room roulette here in London, so I'm hoping that hoping this room's, even though I'm squatting, it'll stay available. So as Brian noted, it looks like we do have quorum, so we will go ahead and get started. I just wanted to give a quick update. I know at the last TAC meeting I had given an indication that at this TAC meeting, we had hoped to had fully seated the new TAC. The governing board is currently in process with finalizing their votes for the appointed seats. And so that process will run through the end of this week. And so at the beginning of next week, we should have the results to share. And so I take back what I said last time, and the next TAC meeting coming up on May the 2nd, if my math serves me right, yeah, May 2nd, we'll have the full TAC, the new TAC seated. So just a brief update on that front. And with that, we do have we do have quorum, rather, and I'm getting kicked out. We have quorum. I'll turn it over to Dustin to go ahead and give the update from the Securing Software Repos Working Group.
No worries. Hey folks, quick update from Securing Software Repos Work Group. Reminder that our mission is to bring together all the maintainers of software repositories, registries, and discuss our various shared problems. I chair this group with significant support from Jacques Chester and Zach Newman. We meet every 2 weeks in alternating time zones to maximize coverage across the time zones. We usually have about 10 to 20 attendees, depending on our agenda. We last updated the TAC in December 2022, so I wanted to provide a couple highlights since then. So one is around SALSA. We've had a lot of discussion and collaboration around some aspects of the upcoming SALSA 1.0 specification, specifically around distribution and discovery of SALSA provenance. We worked together to publish a guide to distributing provenance for the SALSA 1.0 spec, and that'll be in the, it's in the release candidate now, will be in the final version. And we had significant input from many folks in the working group on that recommendation. So that was a really great collaboration. And we've also been providing some light support for NPM as they ship build provenance in beta and determine their attestation format for SALSA. We also, in the last couple of months, have sort of finalized our survey that we performed of open source software repositories, sort of aggregated all the data. Kind of two takeaways from that. One is that we published a blog post about this on OpenSSF blog. We also sort of summarized our key takeaways and recommendations. So all of the things in those takeaways are, for us, I guess, considered actionable things that we could, the surveys revealed to us that we could take further action on. And the last is there's been a bit of work and collaboration around supporting publishing via OIDC for software repositories. IPI support is currently in beta. I think this will be the first software repository to support it. And we'll be launching this week. And we've had a lot of discussion about that feature as well, specifically between the PyPI and the NPM ecosystem, which is going to support this soon as well, I think. Some upcoming things. So there's been a lot of discussion around a shared data set of malware, probably wanting to home this in the OpenSSF in some way that is, available to security researchers, but not maybe completely publicly available. There's an upcoming plan to propose an implementation of what that would look like and how that could be shared across multiple software repositories in a standard way. And also there's been a lot of discussion about dependency confusion attacks specifically and how they affect many of the repositories. We are considering drafting sort of a best practice recommendation for how these repositories should best combat dependency confusion attacks. And that's it. Any questions from the TAC? Anything you'd like more clarity on? Okay, thanks very much. I'm not sure if Bob has returned or found a room. Maybe we can just hand it over to Luigi.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, Luigi, go ahead and take us away.
Yeah, sorry. I was not able to find the mute icon on the tab. Yes, I would like to present, I think the first version that, the version V1. Can you listen to me? Okay.
Yes.
The version V1 for the security policy in for OpenSSF project and content, resource, and infrastructure. We have a shared document. The link is in the meeting notes. And we have also an issue open in the working group vulnerability disclosure because weeks ago we agreed that it was probably the best group that we have to discuss this new policy. I think that this new policy is quite important for us because some repo have it, some repo don't have it, and probably have a sort of standard template for the entire foundation could be a good idea. It's important to consider that OpenSSF is part of Linux Foundation or is strictly related to Linux Foundation. So the idea is to not have documents that are in conflict, both internally for OpenSSF, for example, the inbound and the outbound security policy, but also with the Linux Foundation. There is David that is following this, the discussion with the Linux Foundation Council. And yeah, I think it's ready. The working group vulnerability disclosure has been keep posted by me in the channel and in the repo. And the idea is to have a sort of approval or first approval and feedback by the TAC group to be sure that we are aligned, especially from all the sentences and the, idea, concept, and everything that can be related both to legal and not just to the security or the procedure. Here is the issue. If you want to see it, it's in the Zoom chat. I don't know if you have had time to read the document. It is quite standard, honestly. And well, open a discussion, or if you don't have a particular feedback, or if you think it is a good version. Yes, Rob?
To put things in context, as part of our guidance, we recommend that all open source projects have a security policy documented that describes how they handle defects and reports. It's important for us to kind of drink our own champagne, so to speak. So I strongly agree with Luigi's proposal. We still probably need to hem and haw over the words for like 8 months, but I joke. I think it's actually in a pretty good state. But we should talk about it. I think it's a good thing for the TAC to consider, and then we make that part of our standard operating procedures, that every repo has this, a way to report defects, and especially all software projects.
Yeah, in addition, it is also it's part of the scorecard. The scorecard check if we have a security.md, and I think it's a good idea if we show that it's possible to have a security.md or a security process as a foundation. In addition, GitHub now offer a very good way to report, to handle CVE and in general security issue, because every repo can collect their own security report by researcher and handled by the maintainer. So we don't need to have a sort of a unique point in contact or multiple email, because we can have just an email if someone wants to contact us via email for a lot of reasons. But if the vulnerability or the security issue is in a project that we hosted in GitHub, the researcher can just open a vulnerability report in the repo. This helps us to keep more ordered everything, I guess.
It's a great way to lead by example and encourage others to role model our behavior.
Yeah, initially, it is interesting. Thank you, Michael, for the comment in the chat. Yeah, initially, I started to work on this policy because I wanted to try to spread at least a sort of dog fooding in OpenSSF specification, the security insights that should help scanner and human to collect information about the security standard in place by a repo, not just if they have or not a security.md, but also what are the contacts, if they have a bug bounty, if they have a penetration test report that sometimes some especially important open source projects have, but it's not easy to find them. And I've seen that we don't have a security.md. So the idea is that we can spread the security.md, and then we can create the security insight specification and spread and publish in all the repo. In this way, we can try to standardize how we communicate with the community and with other people what are our current standard. Yeah, I think it's important. It's the first version. It can be improved. There is no PGP key, for example, at the moment, because we need to understand how we want to share secret in the foundation. That's not easy. And other thing, there is also the safe harbor that is temporarily removed because the Linux Foundation Council suggests for now to not publish that kind of safe harbor. And but yeah, some question. Sorry.
Where's the conversation about the safe harbor happening?
In the comment in the document, but they are resolved. But please, you can find in the history of the document. If you cannot, it's a privilege issue, and I can try to fix it. And I have summarized also the David comment in the GitHub issue to not lose this kind of information.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how many detail. Oh, sorry. I should raise my hand. I see Ava was ahead of me.
No worries. Thanks, David. Just echoing Michael's comments from the written chat and my own feedback. This is fantastic. I agree. I would suggest looking at how something like SPDX shortcodes work, such that there would be a machine readable, in addition to the human readable form in a marketing, security.md, perhaps a machine readable concise format at the head of that file or somewhere else to make this very easily aggregatable and automatable.
Yes, I mean, it's still a work in progress. There is a channel, and if you want to join it, you are definitely welcome, because at the moment, Jonathan offered me a lot of good feedback and opinion and fact also. And it's definitely not easy to write a specification. I am learning this now. And probably this is the easiest part, because then we need to convince the community to use it. And so having more contents and feedback on also all the specifications that maybe I don't know that are already popular or not popular enough, but people are working on them, we can try to join in a single file, or try to join them, or to understand if they are in conflict or not, for example. I know the SPDX and another one that, yeah, no, just the SPDX, I joined them. I mean, my first opinion about that specification was that was too complex, but maybe I have just misunderstood it. So definitely open to review and change my mind. Honestly, it's very easy to change my opinion if you have good arguments. So no problem. And feel free also to open issue in the repo, because I'm trying to track in all the job in GitHub for a lot of reasons, especially because in Slack we lose the conversation. So better if it is public on GitHub, and yeah, but thank you.
David, I think you're up.
Yeah. So real quick, first, as far as identifying who to report to, the security insights spec is really what, not SPDX, but as far as the safe harbor goes, we got some interesting feedback regarding the safe harbor. Don't want to go into all the details, but one was the original text was very US centric. Obviously, vulnerability reporting can come from around the world. A second problem is that it is an unfortunate reality that some security researchers go rogue. So they'll report, but they're going to report and simultaneously either attack or help attackers. So saying we won't, hey, it's as long as you report, it's okay that you simultaneously attack people is not really what we're going for. So the suggestion that I got back was basically just tell people, obey the law and keep it simple, and don't try to
you can't do that, because the law states, at least in the United States, that you're not allowed to find vulnerabilities in systems that you don't own. So the current state is that if we don't give explicit permission, they are breaking the law by auditing any services we're running.
I'm not actually, I understand that's your position. I don't think that's the universal position of lawyers.
It is, it's CFAA.
Yep, I'm strongly agreeing with Jonathan here. This is well understood in all the hacker communities that I know.
Okay.
That is the policy. And I can certainly offline cite plenty of precedent where hackers where researchers have reported vulnerabilities in production systems and then been sued for having done so.
There's an entire document that's held by disclose.io that has a long history of all of the different cases where security researchers have been legally prosecuted by organizations for engaging in ethical research. So this is something that we need to carve out in this policy, that this is allowed in behavior and that we will not be chasing them legally, and that this is allowed like this is allowed and we waive CFAA.
Okay. I obviously I'm absolutely in favor of making sure that they are legally safe. The feedback I'm getting from legal counsel, though, is that the original text that was proposed basically says, in many ways, it's open season on our systems, and feel free to take everything and take them down. And that's not the goal either. So somehow we need to find. It sounds like there really needs to be some sort of meeting in the minds of this, because there's a. I think there's a way to handle this, but I think it's complicated. We won't solve it here, but I think we need to find a forum to solve it.
Yeah, let's spin up a call about safe harbor in particular. I think that's easy enough to do. We have access to the experts. We can make that happen pretty quickly.
Yes.
And then talk.
Please make sure that when that call is getting scheduled, it is broadcast pretty widely. Please include the TAC and the Public Policy Committee.
Yep. I have a question for, I know that the TAC is not in a voting state, but are there any concerns with the idea of globally across all Open Source Security Foundation repositories enabling at an organization level private vulnerability reporting across all repositories?
My gut check on that is within the OpenSSF, no. I'd want to have the TAC chat with all of the maintainers before committing them to that, but I would suspect the answer here is no. I know a lot of other open source projects do that and support that. I think the challenging question for a safe harbor is stepping outside of open source projects and into commercial spaces. That's where it's trickier.
Yes, yes, and any services that are getting hosted, like best practices badge or stuff like that. Bob, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what David just said. Also, a time check, just a few more minutes on this, and we need to move on to other topics. Michael.
Sorry, I think we actually did enable GitHub private vulnerability reporting on every project under OSSF. And look, I'm trying to find a repo that it is not enabled on, which tells me that it's enabled on everyone. I haven't found one yet. So this may be moot. We could obviously revisit it and turn it off because I think it was done at the org level.
Did we do core infrastructure as well, which is another OpenSSF org?
Best practices badge, CII, it already turns on the GitHub reporting for private vulnerability reports.
Perfect.
Oh yes, we have enabled it apparently.
All right, any other questions for Luigi? So I guess in terms of next steps here, Luigi, you're still waiting on council to get back with you on the final content. And then once you do that, we can ping back to the TAC to get a final ratified vote on this. Does that plan of record seem okay for you?
Yes, it's like an action item. So, well, David is in contact with the Linux Foundation Council, and I think that we can present the document if it is okay for them. If the email contact is okay, we can just spread in the GitHub organization, and let's see. See, Rob?
So the working group will take the action item to get the safe harbor call set up. We'll make sure we invite the TAC and Public Policy Committee. I would strongly ask everyone on this call to review the issue, provide any feedback you have there, and then we'll see how and if we can proceed with or without the safe harbor now. And we'll let you know kind of what the decisioning and where we land on that, because I think it's very important to provide that protection, again, to set that role modeling, again, that we welcome openness and transparency and collaboration with all members of the community. Yep. So we'll get that back to everybody.
All right, thank you, Krug. Thank you, Luigi. All right,
Thank
next,
you.
Jonathan.
So there is still the Open Source Security Foundation inbound vulnerability, or sorry, no, the outbound. My bad. I'm looking at the wrong document. This document has been passed through legal. We need to cat meow. We need to go through this document with the working group and review the legal wording changes. But I did want to remind the TAC that if you would like to review this document before voting, I'm hoping that we can do a vote next TAC meeting on this document as to whether or not we should adopt it or not, or the TAC should adopt it or not. That would be greatly appreciated. So if you could take the time to read through this document, if you have not done so, that would be greatly appreciated.
And Jonathan, would that be the SIG AutoFix meeting where this is the next chance to discuss this before coming back to the TAC?
No, this is not. This is the Vulnerability Disclosure Working Group. This is the Open Source Security Foundation Vulnerability Disclosure Policy. This is our outgoing reporting, mostly associated with how Alpha Omega will be reporting security vulnerabilities. There's a tie-in, which is the link. There is a link to a proposed policy, which is the automated vulnerability fix campaign, but that will not be finished and complete and going out and shipping with this policy. It is currently a draft that is being bounced around that a SIG.
For the sake of others who want to discuss the outbound policy, though, the next good chance would be tomorrow morning's 8 a.m. Pacific vulnerability disclosures meeting. Then,
yes, the 11 a.m. Eastern Pacific, whatever you said. Yes.
Okay. And did we skip over the quick vuln disclosures update?
We've not done the vuln disclosures update. This is yes. That is that. So that has not happened yet.
Or maybe this is a good time for Crobe to step in and do that.
Certainly.
He's ready.
I was born ready. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So we're here today to talk about the Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group and our status. New things we're here to talk about. You'll hear about today in the following briefing. We adopted OpenVex SIG, and we are now actively participating within the larger CISA VEX working group. You just heard Jonathan talk about the AutoFix SIG and the disclosure policy for auto fixing, and then also the associated external outbound vulnerability reporting. We just heard about the security MD for all open source Silent Far Foundation projects proposal. We also are trying to solicit participation in a CVD guide for open source consumers. And we have a presentation scheduled at OpenSSF North America, simplifying vulnerability, coordinating vulnerabilities and disclosures at open source projects. Madison Oliver and I will be doing that as part of the OSSNA. And we'll have a blog coming out very soon, imminently. It's actually on your desks for comment, getting to know the open source vulnerability format. As a reminder, the Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group has about 16 active members and 15 to 20 kind of people that float in and out from time to time. We are focused on trying to improve overall security of open source software, the ecosystem, by helping mature and advocate well-managed vulnerability reporting and communication, things like security MDs. This is all of our member projects and SIGs, and we'll talk briefly about each one in the coming slides. CVD guides, we produce guidance. We currently have a document focused on open source projects and maintainers on how they can conduct themselves via widely accepted industry coordinated vulnerability disclosure practices. We have a reverse of that guide focused at security researchers or finders, helping them understand how best to interact with open source and how they might find ways to best collaborate with developers. And again, we have that CVD guide for consumers coming. And ideally, we can find some wonderful developers someday that will help us provide some tooling and scripts that will automate some of those practices to help maintainers do things frictionlessly. The OSV, we've just reinvigorated our relationship with. Those folks live in Sydney, Australia, so are not up right now to talk at the TAC. So we had to move a meeting to accommodate them. But OSV is a standard with which producing and consuming vulnerability information the open source way, provides both human and machine readable data. If you get a security advisory from GitHub, it's also in the OSV format, fun fact. We're looking to engage with the CVE board to talk about some challenges with the data quality of some open source projects there, and continue our partnership and collaboration with them as they roll out their new JSON format. We also are looking to meet with Linux distros to see if we can get more Linux distributions using OSV as part of their vulnerability disclosure processes. And there's an amazing opportunity to collaborate with that new OpenVex SIG. And what we'd like from the TAC is, hey, if you can help us find ways to encourage more people to leverage OSV. It's a fun project, 100% open source, and we think there's a lot of value in sharing more information about vulnerabilities than less. The open source security incident response team SIG. This is a spin-off of the mobilization plan. And this is the TLDR on this proposal is to create a team of upstream open source security incident handlers and to work with maintainers and researchers and consumers of open source to help get things fixed more quickly. We currently have a funding proposal that is under review by the governance committee. The plan is always open for comment and feedback. We would love to hear additional thoughts on how this idea could be implemented. So Patch is welcome. Take a look at the issue and provide us any feedback you have. And again, we're looking specifically for feedback from the governing board on if this is something that's viable, if they're interested in funding and supporting or not. And there's a couple, if the plan is approved, we have 2 software projects in there. One is the Siren service, which is a vulnerability communication advertising service, being able to try to find ways to get all of the different methods of advertising fixes more penetrated throughout the industry. And then there's a tool that CertCC created called Vince. And unfortunately, its current implementation is not super open source friendly. The code is open sourced, but the implementation is super tied to AWS. So we're looking at potentially trying to find ways to make that more portable, being able to, anyone could use that software in any environment they wanted. So we're looking to retool some of that and provide that back upstream to the Vince crew. I mentioned OpenVex. OpenVex is a simple implementation of the VEX Vulnerability Exploitability Exchange standard. This is a project that is donated, and I'm waiting on my dear friend Dan Lawrence to give me an update from legal on how that IP review and transfer is coming. But this SIG is focused on supporting the OpenVex spec. There is some tooling associated with it. And then one of our biggest goals is to further the industry collaboration. There are many members that participate with CISA's SBOM and VEX efforts. We're looking to expand that, potentially working with OASIS with the CSAF standard, working with security scanners, things like SPDX and Cyclone DX, and anyone that's interested in sharing information about VEX, which is just a way to state your effectiveness to a vulnerability. We think there's a lot of value in that. And right now, we're not looking for any feedback from the TAC, but patches and comments are always welcome.
I haven't heard anything about the IP or legal review, so I just pinged Mike Dolan to see if I'm missing anything there. But
Thank you,
thanks
sir.
thanks for poking me.
You're welcome. We missed you yesterday. We had a great call. Everyone should check out the video. AutoFix SIG, which is headed up by Jonathan, is a way for security researchers to more quickly share vulnerability reports at scale. And the goal is not to honk off all the open source maintainers. We're trying to find best ways and tools and methods that they can leverage. He's currently got his specification for the vulnerability fix, auto fix campaigns, and also that vulnerability disclosure policy, which isn't directly related. It's related, but it's not directly for the auto fix. So again, as Jonathan mentioned and Luigi mentioned, please review both Luigi's policy and also Jonathan's auto fix proposal. That would be super groovy. And that is that for the Vuln Disclosures group. Do we have any questions? Is there any more information about anything I've covered today that you're looking for? And was this update in the format you wanted? Is there other ways we could share this information that you're curious to see it in?
You have one question in the chat, Kurt.
Great. I heard you mention discussing OSV with the CVE board. I briefly got disconnected. What outcome? I'm not looking for the TAC to do anything. I know half of the CVE board members, so I'm just waiting to find a love connection between Sydney and Washington, DC, so that we can talk. They have some questions about data quality and looking to find ways to improve that interoperability and kind of ease the ability for upstream maintainers to be able to report vulnerabilities and get the CVE identifier. So right now there's nothing we need from the TAC. That's just kind of a statement of what the group will be looking to do. And if anyone's interested in participating, we would love the help. Did I answer your question, Ava?
Yes, thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick comment. I still think this format is very useful. So I would say +1 to keeping it up.
Excellent. And I will post it into the meeting notes here within seconds from now. So you can all look at it in your spare time, which I know you'll do. You'll read it before you go to sleep every night.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. So looking at the agenda, the only other thing that we had listed today was more of an FYI and a reminder to both the TAC directly as well as the broader audience. Francis and David Wheeler and several others have been working on I guess, skeleton document is the phrase that comes to mind, but certainly it's got more on it than just a few bullet points around helping to flesh out the meaning behind the phrase Sterling toolchain. And so this is something that I would certainly ask the current TAC, the incoming TAC, as well as the folks that are representing the broader community to please go in and take a look. I think, there's a lot of discussion around what this could be and should be. And I think ultimately what's most important is that the community really does engage in a meaningful way to help really refine the concept. And as we think about turning that concept into a set of action plans, it's going to be very important that we obviously have collaboration as kind of a key ingredient to all of this. So I'm not going to walk through the document in detail on this call, but just another reminder to please take a look at that, add questions, add comments in there, and we will continue to refine that. Once the incoming TAC is finally seated, I think we will have a further discussion around how to turn this document into more of an action plan. So I guess more to come on that front, but just wanted to call everyone's attention to that. Any questions on that? All right. Any other topics folks on the call want to raise today? I think we've hit the entirety of today's agenda.
Just a quick reminder that next week is RSA, and if folks are in town, it'd be lovely to meet up in the hallways, or well, the city, as it were.
Awesome. Well, safe travels to all that are traveling for that. And I don't see any other topics or hands raised. So with that, we'll go ahead and close today's call. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.